Series of rather enlightening teacher interviews. I'm talking about the ideal classroom. And I do hope that if for some reason I come across as arrogant or disrespectful, I hope I don't. And I sincerely apologize if I do. Next, please. There exists a relationship between teachers and students that heavily impacts performance, happiness, and the general classroom experience for both parties. Teachers dislike having unruly students just as much, if not more, than students dislike having uninteresting teachers. And having either one brings the other. My intention is to convince both students and teachers to be consciously aware of how their actions influence those of the opposite party, and to be willing to change, if only slightly, their actions in school to improve the classroom experience and student performance. I'm here to explain the ideal classroom dynamic. Very often in arguments, one party will blame the other without considering how they played a part in the conflict, and that causes problems. My inquiry focused on how circumstances influence rebellion under authority, and the research involved analyzing how people individually contribute to a conflict. People create circumstances which affect reactions, like this potential rebellion. And forgetting your part in how you play a part in the conflict is simply not an option when you're trying to resolve. We create the circumstances in classrooms that affect our experiences. Now, the first thought for most people about why a classroom environment might not be ideal is that some kids just refuse to study, or they stay up late partying instead of sleeping, which is why they fall asleep in class. And for some kids, this is true. And regrettably, there isn't really much to be done about a kid who does this, who refuses to participate, besides persisting and attempting to appeal to their interests. Students like these are difficult for teachers, and I admit to being that student on a few occasions. But when I do become aware of that fact, I instantly alter my dynamic. I'm slowing the class down, I'm frustrating students and teachers who want to move along, I'm preventing myself from learning, and I'm lowering my own grade. So it's not fun for anyone, and that's enough reason for me to try in class. Next, please. Teaching is a difficult profession. I feel I wouldn't be patient enough to be a teacher, and contrary to popular belief, teachers are human. They have lives, just like students, and most importantly, they have feelings. They are not supernatural beings that exist solely in the classroom. They have hobbies and families. Many of them actually like to garden. One teacher I interviewed compared the classroom to an ecosystem, and I found it to be a very accurate analogy. With the right soil and nutrients, you can have a garden. With the right students and teaching energy, you can have a good class. The teachers here in Tenafly High School are wonderful. My favorite subject in school is mathematics, no offense meant to other subjects. And I can say with confidence that it wouldn't be if my teachers had been unprepared for class. Teachers sometimes do make or break the subject for students. Next, please. I recall one teacher who was exceptional. He was conscious of us as students, and ironically, he seemed to be on our side. He wanted us to do as well as we could in the class. Obviously, he took points off when homework was late, and he didn't hand out A's on everything he saw, but we felt like success was possible, despite the fact that it was an incredibly difficult AP course. That's a really important part of the student mentality, thinking that we can succeed. We rely on teachers to provide that feeling when our own confidence starts to falter. If it falters a little too much, some students give up. And having a supportive attitude makes a world of a difference in class. One really challenging thing about teaching is moving reluctant students. More than one teacher I interviewed during my research spoke about how in their early careers, respect was a part of the school culture. It's not so much anymore, they said. But even beyond that adaptation over the years, teaching as a profession is exhausting. Paying individual attention to students in 5 classes a day, coming back from more than 4 years, and grading 20 times as many tests as one student takes saps the energy out of teachers every day. The good teachers come back every year because they do care. And if the students want respect from teachers, then we have to recognize that teachers deserve respect from students. Respect can come in the form of attention in class, or an attempt to be less reluctant to learn. Next, please. Every teacher reacts to class differently. Some are really chill and others are strict. One chill teacher put it simply: they have a job to do and students have a job to do, so why not do it together? Teachers aren't oblivious to student preferences. Some accept disinterest or reluctance because of a dislike for the subject. Not everybody loves math like I do. And it's not personal. But that doesn't mean that a student who doesn't like math can't succeed in class. And that's why some teachers accept disinterest as a decision, one that the student has to live with, and one that, frankly, has very little impact on the teachers themselves. Of course, every teacher still tries to reach students, and that's not an excuse for students to not try. But if a student isn't interested, the least they can do is make an effort to succeed. Both students and teachers are in class 5 days a week, every period. So we might as well make the best of it. So for the record, though, there are some ways to crack disinterested students. We like being understood and helped when needed. It's not holding our hands through the entire process as long as it doesn't happen every day, but accommodation and assistance can go a long way with students. Even if deadlines aren't pushed back, spending a minute in class to go on an interesting tangent refreshes students. That's accommodating. It keeps attention when the teacher surprises students with a story or joke, and it adds fun to the class. I look forward to classes I enjoy, and you can bet your boots I try in them. A lot of bit of the subject, and a little bit of something else, as one teacher said. Fun appeals to everyone. Now, the class dynamic with these chill teachers sometimes differs from dynamics with strict teachers. Styles are neither better nor worse, they're just different. Strict teachers might think that things are expected of students, and without proper effort and work ethic, the class fails to meet those hopes. When teachers voice these feelings to the class somehow, they are sometimes called mean. But strict and mean are not synonymous, and it's a shame because I've seen students use them that way. Teachers structure their classes based on a schedule to cover subjects efficiently in short amounts of time. What we call strict might be wanting to stick to that schedule and see the class keep up. A teacher isn't mean just because their style doesn't afford bending rules and giving extra time. Especially in higher level courses, teachers can't afford to waste time. There's simply too much material to get through. Ideally, students will keep up with the course so that teachers will be more lenient if we do make a few mistakes, because we're human. And it's not reasonable for us to expect leniency with a clear schedule when we never do keep up. If we do keep up, maybe we'll get somewhere. Now, another thing to consider about strict scheduling is what goes on in that schedule. In an English class, reading and writing assignments will most certainly be on the calendar. But maybe one book is extremely unpopular. I've been in classes where the teacher straightforwardly asked what our favorite and least favorite units were and what could be done differently in the next year. Now, the freedom isn't always afforded to classes with tight curriculums because you can't just skip geometry, but student input towards the course can suggest minor alterations in the way material is presented, the timing of certain units, or even the proceedings of major events, ultimately making the class more manageable and enjoyable for future students. We do have numerous classes a day assigning us work to do, so timing can make a difference. Next, please. Now, why do I care, and why in the world should you? School's great, but students spend 4 years here, and then they go to college where they'll figure out their lives. Then they get a job. So what's high school in the bigger picture? Many people shrug it off as a time to have fun, or be a teenager, kind of like college, or just a really long chore. But I can tell you from personal experience that I've learned valuable lessons here besides how to take derivatives. I'm a math nerd. I like facts and logic. So high schools today are designed to prepare students for future education and employment. And that means while you learn here algebra to do multivariable calculus somewhere else, you're also learning how to manage your time, work efficiently, think. Mundane teenage dilemmas like whether to do homework or procrastinate teach us consequence and force us to deal with stress, something you're never going to escape in your mid-30s if my brother is any example. So what are we working towards? Next, please. Consider this metaphor. School is a company, students are employees working for that company, and teachers are managers, overseeing the employees and carrying out the function of this company. School teaches us how to have a job. But it's actually much more than that. High school teaches us how to live. From basic academia to practical skill to social networking, high school in one way or another provides exposure to almost everything you might find in your life. Love, for example, isn't part of the curriculum, but I'm sure most of you have had some experience with that already. Teachers have the immense responsibility of guiding us through this period of our lives through education. They're not our babysitters, but we can learn more than the definition of the word bumfuzzle from them. For the record, it means to confuse or fluster. Teachers are role models. I took quite a few teachers as examples myself these past 4 years, and I wouldn't have if I didn't believe they offered something valuable to learn. It's a responsibility to be taken very seriously. Students, don't turn your backs on these 4 years of your life. I'm a senior this year, so I don't really get much more practice, but take high school as a chance to learn more than American history. Learn how to live your life, learn how to manage yourself, balance your work and play, and learn self-control. Be able to execute any plan your mind can come up with, and overcome procrastination, please. You can. So let's all of us, students and teachers, make classrooms a little more ideal. Thank you.